Hey traders, welcome back to another Pine Script lesson. Today's lesson is going to be a little bit different to my usual lesson. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a Discord bot out of TradingView Alerts. Now admittedly, I recognize this is a pretty niche subject and not many of you are going to need to do this sort of thing, but it's something I've been playing around with in my free time while I'm trying to set up this Zen and the Art of Trading Discord network. This is going to be a Discord server that anyone can join to stay up to date with what I'm up to. So there's a section here that'll sort of automatically update whenever I release anything new on social media or new TradingView scripts or anything like that. And it also has a bunch of market update channels. Now these channels are mostly managed by a custom bot I wrote in Java, so it's a little bit more advanced. Here's some of the source code here. I'm not going to be showing you anywhere near anything as complex as what you see here in today's lesson. We're going to focus on Pine Script and TradingView and how to create a webhook in Discord to send information from TradingView into your custom Discord server. And these alerts will look something like this. If I scroll up a bit here, you can see this alert here. Now this is under the crypto updates channel, but this was just a test command I sent yesterday. And basically what our TradingView alert is doing is sending an avatar icon URL, a bot name, a message here. You can tag roles so that anyone with this role gets a ping or notification that there's a new message in this channel. And then we have an embed. It's called an embed here, where this sort of box here. And what you see in this box here is first we have an author. You can make this anything you want. I just set it to market update. Then we have an author image. I've just set it to whatever the first base currency is. In this case, it's AUD, Aussie, Canada. So we have the Aussie flag there. And then we have our message from TradingView. And this is a message I wrote in my TradingView script. This could be anything. You could send any data that you can get out of TradingView to your Discord server in this sort of format. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, stick around and I'll jump over to the Pine Script editor and show you how I built this out. But before we begin, I should mention that if you want to be notified when this Discord server community thing goes live to the public, head over to theartoftrading.com and sign up to our mailing list, and I will send you out a message when it's ready to join. But anyway, let's get started with today's lesson. So I've obviously already written out the code here. I'm going to delete all of this, and then I'll paste in the code block by block and explain what it does as we go. So the first thing we have here is a bunch of user settings, as always. We have a bot name, avatar URL, an icon URL, title URL, a text message, custom message to add to our Discord embed. We have our role ID to tag or ping when this message goes out. We have our embed color and this little boolean here, volatility alerts. I'll explain what all of these do as we build out the script, and this will all make perfect sense why I've set this up this way. But before we get into the coding, I need to show you how to set up your webhook on your Discord server. So this is assuming you already have a Discord server, a custom Discord server that you have admin privileges for. If you don't know how to do that, I'm not going to show you how to set that up in today's video because it's outside of the scope of what I'm teaching today. There's plenty of tutorials out there if you're interested in that. But if you've already got your server set up, all you need to do in order to create your webhook to send this information to from TradingView is right click on your server, come down to server settings, and then click on integrations. Next, you want to click on webhooks here, and then click create new webhook, this button here. And then we have our sort of webhook creation interface here. You can name your bot whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you call it because we can override that with our TradingView alerts. But the one thing you do need to make sure you set up correctly is your channel. We cannot change what channel our message is sent to once it's set up. So make sure you select the right channel here that you want to use. So for today's lesson, I'm going to come down and select private sandbox. This is a custom private channel I've created in my Discord for testing stuff that no one else except for me can see. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to call this thing just test bot for now. And I'm not going to bother with the avatar. I'm going to save changes. Now we have our webhook bot set up. So that's literally all you need to do on the Discord side. Let's jump back over to the Pine editor and I'll show you the script that I wrote. So this is a work in progress. I'm going to add more features to this script as I find the time. To be honest, it's not a huge priority for me at the moment, but I figured while I'm doing this, I might as well turn it into a lesson to teach you guys something a little bit different. So the first thing I do in this script, other than get our user input, is declare a couple of constant variables. So constant just means these don't change. I never change these in the script. And they are VAR variables, so they're persistent. So on the very first bar on our chart, these three variables get initialized and their values never change. The first value is our role ID. This just converts our role ID from the settings menu into the appropriate Discord syntax so that it actually tags that role. Over on Discord, if I were to just @ crypto, for example, if I were to send this message as a human user in this channel, this would actually tag the crypto role. But if I was just to write @crypto in my alert text, it would just show up as text and it won't tag the user. The Discord syntax for bots, specifically just for bots to tag roles, is the open arrow or left arrow, the and sign, and then the role ID, the Discord role ID. So if I right click on my server, come down to server settings, roles. If I right click on the crypto role and click copy ID and go back here, this is the ID I need to reference when I'm trying to ping this role. So we need the left arrow, an and sign, an @ sign, and then close that off with the right arrow. This right here would look like this when this message gets sent from our webhook bot to Discord. So that's an important thing to mention. If you want to tag a user, then it looks like this. You get rid of the and sign, and then you need to copy the user ID and paste that in there. So if I copy my bot ID, we would need to go @ like that. But we're just working with roles today, so let's jump back over to the Pine editor and move on. The next constant variable here is our icon URL. So if the symbol info type, so the market type we're currently loaded onto our chart, is equal to Forex, then we're on a Forex market, and instead of sending our icon URL from the settings menu, I send a flag icon. So this is my website here. We're getting theartoftrading.com/files/discord/flags, and then the base currency is going to be the first 3 letters in the symbol ticker. So if I were to set an alert on this market right now, this would be turned into all of this /AUD.png, and we would get the Aussie flag. Otherwise, if we are not on a Forex market, then we reference the icon URL from the settings menu, and you could set that to anything you want. It's just a link, just a URL to any image file. Same with the avatar URL, which we'll get to in a moment. Next up, we have our market constant variable, and I'll explain what this is used for later. It's not important. It doesn't get sent in the alert or anything like that. Anyway, the next thing I do is just get the data I want to send to Discord. So in this case, I'm simply getting the percentage change of the closing price the current closing price compared to the previous closing price. So we're dividing that and then multiplying by 100 in order to turn that into a percentage. And then I'm also getting the RSI of the current market. Now you could use the security function here to reference other markets, other time frames, etc. I'm just keeping this simple. We're just referencing the current market we're on so that we can just set an alert on this market. And then when the alert fires, it will reference the current market's data. Next up, I needed a custom function to truncate, which is a fancy word for cut, the excess decimal places. So when you're sending some alerts to third-party APIs, to Discord in this case, sometimes if you send a value, like if we send the RSI, on our chart, the RSI might be 70.51 or whatever. But when it's sent, when that number is sent to the third-party API, it could have like a dozen decimal places, and it's just ridiculous. So this custom function here truncates the number's decimal places to whatever we want it to be. So for example, if I wanted to truncate the RSI's value, we could say RSI truncated. I don't know if that's a word, but let's just go with that. Is set to, and then we'd use truncate and then pass in our market RSI variable, this guy here, comma, and then how many decimal places we want to cut back to. So if I put 2 in there, then we would only have 2 decimal places after the whole number of our RSI value. Now here is the most complicated part of the script, where we convert our values and all of the settings, data, everything we have here into JSON format to send to the Discord webhook. So I've got a custom function here. All of this code will be in the video description. A link to it will be in the video description. You can just copy and paste this entire script into your editor and play around with it. But here is the embed JSON code for Discord from Pine Script. Let me paste it in here. And it looks like a big mess, but I'll explain what's happening here. We have our embed parameters. So the color of the embed, this is the actual color. You can see we've got a red color on this embed, a white one on this one, a green one on this one. So that's our first parameter. Our second parameter is the author. The third is the title. Fourth is the URL, and this is the URL of the title. So if I go back over to Discord, in this case, AUD takes me to the TradingView chart that I set this alert on. So that URL parameter turns the title into a link. So this title becomes a link to this URL. Next up, we have our icon URL. When we call this function later in the script, we pass it this icon URL constant variable, which, remember, sends a flag icon if this is a Forex pair. Otherwise, it just sends the icon URL from our settings menu. Next up, we have a description, and then we have this variable here, which I can get rid of as I'm not currently using that. So if I jump back over to Discord, this is our description, this is our title, this is our author, this is our icon URL, this is our color, this is our content message and the role tag, this is our avatar URL. We can set this to any image we want to, and our bot name can be set to anything we want. And that basically makes up your average Discord message sent from a bot. I'll leave a link in the video description to a resource, a really handy resource. If I bring this up here, this website here has a great bunch of guides here, tutorials on how to use the different embed parameters. So you could have a footer if you wanted to, and that puts a little footer on the end here with an icon URL. And in fact, we might use this later in our script to set the quote currency flag image. So right now we only have the Aussie flag on here. We could set a footer below this description here that has the Canadian flag image in it here, and then a little footer here if we wanted to. So maybe we'll look into that towards the end of this lesson. And to remind myself, I'm just going to paste a comment in here to this footer code, and we'll come back to this later. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of information here. You can send images and all sorts of things. And you can do all of this through JSON using your Pine Script alerts. But today we're just going to focus on the basics. I don't want this lesson to be too complex. So let me go over this function really quickly. The first thing we do is set our bot text. This is our username of our bot. You can see all these backslash and quotation marks here. The backslash is an escape character. Now in most programming languages, including Pine Script obviously, we use quotation marks to declare a string. So when we're working with strings or text, we need to use quotation marks to tell Pine Script that this isn't code, this is text that we want to send somewhere or display somewhere. But if we want to use quotation marks in our text, you can't just do a bunch of quotation marks, because Pine Script thinks this is just a bunch of blank strings side by side, and you'll get compile errors if you do that. So instead, what we need to do is use the backslash or escape character and then put in our quotation marks. So now you can see this is a full string, but when we send this to Discord or anywhere else, or display it on our screen or whatever we do with this, the backslash will be basically deleted, and this is what our text will look like. But Pine Script knows that we want to include this quotation mark within this string. So that's why this looks so messy, and it's a bit of a headache to write out. The way I did this was I just set up my embed how I wanted to in Notepad, and then I pasted that code into the Pine editor, and I just backspaced everything and added backslashes for all the quotation marks, and just added a string on the end like that. It took me a little while to get everything lining up perfectly, but that's what this giant string here basically is. It's just one long JSON string that sends all of our various parameters. So we have our username, which is our bot name, our avatar URL, which is the URL to our image, our profile image of the bot. Then we have our tag text. What this variable here is doing is it's saying, is our message blank? So let me make this a bit bigger and open up the settings menu here. This is our message parameter. We could set this to anything we want, like, hi, this is a market update, or you can leave it blank. And then there is no text that gets sent to Discord. This text is this text here before the embed. So it's optional. You don't need to include this, and you don't even need to include a role if you don't want to. You could just send an embed without the role and without the message in our script. The way you do that is you would just make both of these text boxes blank, and then this tag text would end up just being a blank string. Because here we first check, is message blank and is role blank? If so, then set our tag text to blank. Otherwise, if message is not blank or role is not blank, then we set our content parameter, and then we specify, is our message blank? If so, then we just add nothing to the content parameter just yet. Otherwise, if message is not blank, then we add that message text to our content tag or parameter. Then we add a space on the end, and then we add our role ID constant, which is this guy here. And this does the same thing. It checks, is role blank? If so, just send a blank string. Otherwise, specify our role ping tag with the correct syntax that you can see here. So this role ID would be a long number like you see here. And the way you get that role ID, as I showed you earlier, is you just right click on the role name anywhere in Discord and click copy ID. I think you need to turn on some sort of setting in the settings menu. Just Google that if you don't have the option to copy IDs. Just Google how to copy Discord IDs. There's plenty of information on that out there. So that's our tag text. Next up, we return the rest of our text. So this just sort of merges everything together. So we merge our bot text, our tag text, and then our embed code. We have our title here. We have our URL for the title. We have our color of the embed. We have our description of the embed. We have our author name. In this case, that's going to be the market we're currently on, and the URL of that author. So by default, that's just set to the same URL as our title. But if you wanted to, you could have two different URLs here, so that when you click on either this will take you to one URL, and then you could make it so that when you click on the market, it takes you to a different URL if you wanted to. I've just set it up so that both take you to the same URL. Then next up, we have our icon URL. This is the icon of the author. In this case, this is our flag icon for Forex markets. And if we're not on a Forex market, then it sends whatever image you put in to this setting here. By default, it's just set to my logo for my company. So it's actually quite simple. It only looks complicated because we're just dealing with JSON syntax in Pine Script, which, if we were to see this in plain text, it would look a lot more like this. So this is a lot easier to read than what we're dealing with. But basically, you would just write out what you need to display, and then, as I showed you earlier, you can format it in Pine Script after you've written it out in plain text like this. It's a lot easier to do it that way than to try and write it out with all those backslashes. Just remember that when you're specifying all your keys, you need quotation marks around them. But when you're specifying your values, not all of them need quotations. So your color, for example, is just a number. So you don't want to put quotations around this. And same with, although it looks like you can if you want to, but it's the same with Booleans. You don't want to put quotations around your Booleans, or there is a good chance the message won't work. And this is a good time to mention that if you don't want to use embeds and you just want to keep it really simple and just send a simple line of text to your Discord, use the content tag. It's much easier. It's just one curly bracket, one open curly bracket, then content in quotation marks, colon, and then a string. And this string could be anything, and that gets sent to Discord just like this. So if you want to make a really simple Discord bot through TradingView, just use these instead of embeds. But I like the look of embeds, so I went with that instead. Plus you can add images and cool stuff like that. So that's the important part of the script covered, the first half. Next up, all we need to do is send this information to Discord using an alert. So let me paste this code in here. So the way I've done this is I check if the bar state is confirmed. This Boolean value, this inbuilt variable, is only set to true on the last closing update of the current bar, or in other words, the final tick of the current bar before a new bar starts. So if the bar state is closing, in the act of closing on the final tick, then we get a bunch of information and we send it using the alert function. And the way we would use this is we'd create a new alert, select our script, and input the webhook URL that we created at the start of this lesson. But we'll get to that in a moment. So the first thing I do before we send this info to Discord is I get a couple of strings here just to keep my code tidy, or as tidy as possible. I broke up our message into multiple variables. The first one is our time frame. This variable gets the current time frame we're on. If it's an intraday time frame we're on, then this text here will say our time frame period plus minute. So if I was on the 4-hour time frame, this would say 2:40 minute. If I was on the 5-minute time frame, this would say 5 minute. Otherwise, if this is not an intraday time frame, but it's a daily time frame, then our time frame variable is set to daily. And I just realized we don't need the spaces here. Get rid of all the spaces. So if the time frame is daily, then our time frame is set to daily. If I just set this variable to timeframe.period, then this would just be D. So to make it a little more readable on Discord, I convert the D of the daily time frame period into daily. Same with the weekly. If we're on the weekly time frame, then it's set to weekly instead of just W. And if we're in the monthly, it's set to monthly. Otherwise, if we're not on any of these time frames, I don't know what time frame we're on, and so I just set it to blank. So this is all done within parentheses. So one of these will be selected out of our conditional statements. Once we've just determined which one we're on, then we add the text time frame to the end of that. So if we're on the 5-minute time frame, this time frame variable would say 5 space minute space time frame, just to make it more readable on Discord. Next up, we have our update. This is the update we want to send. This is basically our turning our market data that we've got up here into readable text. So here we're saying symbolinfo.ticker. That would say AUD/USD space ended space, and then we check did the market change. Is the market change variable? This is a percentage change, remember, of the current bar. If the current bar's percentage change was positive or above 0, then we say AUD/USD in this case ended up, and then our market change percent. Or if it was not above 0, then it ended down, and then our market change percent. And here we need to convert our market change value into a string, or we'll get a compile error. So you can't add a number directly to a string. We need to convert that string into text. We do that using the toString function. And then here is my truncate method, the custom function I created here that converts this market change percentage value into a number with 2 decimal places, so that we don't have 1,500 million numbers after our decimal place. Then we add the percentage sign on the end of that text. Then we say which time frame this data is from, which is just passing the variable we created up here. So on time frame, and then in brackets we have our RSI value. And again, we convert that value to a string and we truncate it down to 2 decimal places. So if I jump back over to Discord, this is exactly what that looks like. Now I know it's a lot of work to get a simple sentence sent to Discord, but the beauty of this sort of code is that once it's written, we can pretty much set these alerts on any market we want to, and the hard work's done. That's why I like using custom functions and stuff for this, because now this entire script is reusable, and I've set multiple alerts on multiple markets to keep updating the users of my Discord on any important market events, such as you can see I've got a few Bitcoin. I'm going to add to the crypto alerts when I get around to it, but this will notify you whenever Bitcoin volatility picks up. So Bitcoin rises or falls 10% in an intraday time period within the day, you'll get alerted on Discord. If Bitcoin is broken out of its 2-week range on high volume, you'll get an alert because that could predicate a larger move incoming. And then I just have basic Forex alerts that just update you on where the markets ended the day. One thing you could add to this if you wanted to, and I probably should have, I don't know why I didn't, is the price of this market. So I don't know where the best place to do this would be. Let's do it here maybe. Let's add a open square bracket plus toString close plus close square bracket. So now we'll have in square brackets the actual price of this symbol. So that's it. Next up, we have our content, which just generates the JSON, passes all of this information to our custom function here and converts it into JSON format so that we can send that information in our alert. So I need to get rid of this Boolean because we're not using that at the moment. That Boolean was to add fields. I was going to play around with adding various multiple fields to the embed, but I don't think that's a good idea for this particular use case. If you wanted to send like maybe stock data, maybe you wanted to pull financials from a market or multiple indicator readings from a market, you might want to look into using fields, which again, this guide here will help you with. If you go to fields here, if I scroll down, you can see if you wanted to, you could send a whole bunch of indicator values or something for a specific market using fields instead of using multiple embeds. It looks a lot tidier. But we won't cover that in today's lesson because it's going to be too much information. One other thing I did with my script is I added a volatility alert. So if I paste this block of code in here, this is exactly the same as this code here. The only difference is instead of waiting for the bar to close, we're checking if the current bar's change percentage, the absolute value of the current market's change percentage, so positive or negative, if it has moved 10% up or down within the current bar and the user has turned volatility on in the settings menu, it's on by default, then this alert will be sent to Discord. And this is just telling you that there's a high volatility alert. The only difference really with this code, again, I should add in the current price of this market would be helpful to know or useful to know. The only difference between this code here and this one up here, other than we don't specify the time frame, which I probably should do. So let me copy this here, paste that in there, and change today to on time frame. So now this code is identical to our first block of code here. The only difference is instead of sending our color from the settings menu, this here, which by the way is a decimal color, not a hex color or a RGB color. This is a decimal color. Not sure why Discord uses this instead of hex colors, but you'll need to look up an online converter. Maybe I'll link one in the description to convert your preferred color into a decimal value. But the only difference with this block of code is we check if the current change is positive, then we set it to bright green. Otherwise, we set it to bright red. So if we have positive volatility, this will be a green embed. If we have negative volatility or bearish volatility, it'll be a red embed. Then we use the alert function to send this JSON syntax to Discord. And that's it. So finally, the last thing I do here is I create a custom table. Now this is completely optional. Let me paste this code in here and get rid of our plot close. This is completely optional. I only did this so that I could quickly and easily do a bit of debugging with my text formatting for sending my alerts. So now if I save this script, fingers crossed, this will compile without any errors. Hopefully I haven't missed anything. I spoke too soon. Undeclared identifier content. Too much arguments. Because I removed a parameter from our custom function here and I forgot to update that. Now it should compile without any errors. There we go. You can see that our little custom table here is giving us just a little bit of information. It's telling us what our base currency is and what market we're on. If we were to go to, for Bitcoin, for example, now it's saying BTC and crypto. If we were to go to gold, it'll be CFD and XAU USD. Because this is not a Forex market or a crypto market, our market variable, as you can see here, if it's Forex or crypto, then we pass the base currency to our market variable. Otherwise, we just reference the whole ticker. So because this isn't Forex or crypto, we're just sending the entire ticker. And that'll apply to anything we look up here. So if I look up Apple, for example, this will say stock and Apple. And of course, you could set this alert up on Apple and it would work just the same as Forex or anything like that. Only difference is you won't get your little flag icon sent to Discord. But of course, if you wanted to, you could look up an Apple image and put that into your icon URL, and that will override the image over on Discord. But anyway, let's go over the table code really quickly. This isn't really relevant to the lesson, but I'll go over it really quickly. First thing we do is set up a table with a position of middle right with one row, one column, and a border width of 1. Then we have a custom function here which fills the table, fills the cell of the table. So down here, we check, is this the last bar on our chart? If so, then we use the fill cell custom function. We pass it our table ID, we pass it 0 row ID, 0 column ID, and then our title, which is market, as you can see there, and then our text. So this is market plus, and then our symbol info dot type. So this gives us our market type. In this case, that's stock. And then we need to pass a color, a background color for the table. I just set mine to black with 0 transparency, and I set the text color to color.white. I'll leave a link in the video description to the blog post where they announced the release of this table functionality, and I have a couple of guides there, a couple of example scripts that show you how to use tables. But this is just a really easy way to quickly and visually show certain data from your script. In this particular case, this was just for debugging purposes, just so that I knew what my JSON code was sending to Discord. Anyway, that is it for our script. Let me wrap this up really quickly by, I will add in the footer code in a moment, but let's just test this script before we move on to doing that and wrapping up this lesson. So let's create an alert on, let's go with US yen. Why not? We're on the 5-minute time frame. Let's go to a 1-minute time frame so that I can make this quick. Click on add alert, select our script, leave it as any function alert call. Make sure to paste in the right webhook URL. So let me show you how to do that again. So here we are on Discord. I need to right click on my server, go server settings, integrations, webhooks, and then click on my test bot, copy that webhook URL, and then go back to TradingView and paste that URL into our webhook URL parameter box here. You can name this whatever you want. You can set any of this to however you want. You can notify yourself if you want to. All of that's optional. Now let's click create, and in 5 seconds, we should get an alert sent to my private sandbox channel where I test these sorts of things. There we go. Market update sent from TradingView. You can see that our webhook our webhook bot, has been overwritten with the parameters we sent in our script. So it's no longer called test bot, it's called TradingView. It's got the TradingView icon here and all the information we wanted to send. It's got our price, the percentage. We're on a 1-minute time frame, so it didn't move at all, basically. The RSI is 22.45 on this market, and we're on the 1-minute time frame. Awesome, that's about it. I know I kind of rushed through this lesson, but the source code will be in the description again, as always. So if you need to, just rewatch this lesson a few times if I rushed over something you don't quite understand it. But it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to set this up, and it's pretty cool. If you have your own Discord server or you're trying to set up your own trading community, This is a really cool feature to have. It's really, really simple to set up. And as you can see, it just posted another alert. I better go and disable the alert. Otherwise, I'm going to get a bazillion messages sent to my Discord before I remember to do that. So I'm going to jump over right now and delete that alert. And then I'm going to take a quick break and I'll come back and we will add the footer to this alert, including the quote currency flag, in this case, the Japanese flag symbol, to our Discord message. So I'll be right back. I need to take a break, have dinner, and then I'll show you guys how to do that. All right, I'm back. I've changed my mind about adding the footer in today's YouTube lesson just because this video is already long enough. You can figure out how to do this yourself if you just study the JSON format for adding a footer to our embeds. But this is what the final product looks like on my Discord server. The only thing I need to change here is to convert these pips into whole numbers. But you can see that the two icons are here now. So we've got the Euro icon and the US icon in the header and footer, which helps you to identify which currency pairs are which a little bit easier. For those of you in the Pine Script Mastery course, I'll include an extended version of this lesson where I'll show you how I added this footer in. But for the YouTube guys watching, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you did, because I'll be back soon with new lessons on how to do some cool stuff with Pine Script. Oh, and if you want to be notified when the Discord server goes live, make sure to head over to theartoftrading.com and sign up to our mailing list. Anyway, that'll do. Take care. Best of luck with your trading, and I will speak with you soon. Goodbye.